This is the United Kingdom, located off the northwestern coast of continental Europe. It includes the island of Great Britain and the northeastern part of the island of Ireland. Apart from Northern Ireland's land border with the Republic of Ireland, the UK is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and Irish Sea to the west, the North Sea in the east, and the English Channel in the south. In fact, in the UK, you are never more than 70 miles from the sea. Perhaps more fascinatingly, despite being only the 80th largest country, the UK has the 6th largest economy in the world. But while this highlights an impressive history of strong economic performance, the UK is now facing a serious problem. No one wants to live there anymore. Stagnating wages, rising living costs, and diminishing opportunities for career advancement has created an environment where skilled professionals are increasingly seeking better prospects abroad. Whether it's moving to the US, Australia, or Canada, the UK's educated workforce is leaving in search of better working conditions, fewer working hours, and lower taxes. Nowhere is this issue being more keenly felt than in the country's National Health Service. Nearly a third of doctors currently practicing medicine in the UK are considering leaving in the next 12 months to work abroad, with a further 33% stating they were likely to move abroad at some point. This desire to leave the UK is driven by a feeling of being overworked and underpaid compared to peers located elsewhere. The UK has 3.2 doctors for every 1,000 people, ranking only 25th among the OECD countries, and ranking the lowest among European countries. Given this existing shortage, if such an exodus of doctors were to materialise, it would spell disaster for the UK's health service. But this feeling goes beyond doctors. Despite the UK continuing to welcome more migrants into the country than it sees leave, research indicates that those leaving tend to be more skilled than those arriving, contributing to a concerning trend of brain drain. More and more young, skilled professionals are choosing to leave the UK to build their careers abroad. And the exodus has gotten so bad that the UK is projected to have a significant shortage of highly skilled workers by 2030. This now begs the question, why does no one want to live in the UK anymore? The UK's economic structure has shifted dramatically over the past few decades, with the shift from being an industrial-based economy to a service-based one, starting in the 1970s. Today, the service sector accounts for 80% of the UK's GDP. However, this transition has created a key weakness: productivity growth. Productivity is the efficiency with which goods and services are produced, directly influencing economic growth, living standards, and competitiveness in the global market. Since the 2008 financial crisis, the UK's productivity growth has languished at a mere 0.4% per year, falling far behind the average of the 25 richest OECD countries. The UK's productivity gap with France, Germany, and the US has doubled over that period, and now stands at 18%, costing the UK £3,400 in lost output per person. Another key challenge for the UK's services-dominated economy is that its exports and productive activity are concentrated in London, which accounts for 63% of the UK's surplus in services trade. High-value services thrive in cities with highly educated populations and where many similar firms can co-locate, but too few of the UK's cities, including both Birmingham and Manchester, have been able to reinvent themselves as service hubs. In fact, all of England's biggest cities outside London have productivity levels below the national average. Investment, a crucial driver of economic growth and productivity, has been historically low in the UK. Capital investment has averaged only 16% of GDP since 1997, the lowest among G7 countries. This underinvestment has contributed significantly to the stagnation in productivity growth and has left the UK economy less resilient to economic shocks. The implications of this productivity shortfall are profound and far-reaching. Weak productivity has led to declining real wages, which have failed to continue on their pre-2008 trajectory. Having grown by an average of 33% a decade from 1970 to 2007, real wages fell below zero in the 2010s, only recovering to pre-financial crisis levels in mid-2023. These years of lost wage growth have effectively left average workers earning £10,700 less per year than they would have if wage growth had continued at pre-2008 trends. This level of wage stagnation in an economy as advanced as the UK UK's is almost completely unprecedented. It has affected all demographics across the UK and has led many to call it the poorest rich country due to its low median income compared to other wealthy nations. Before we dive further into the reasons why no one wants to live in the UK anymore, please take a moment to help the channel out by hitting that subscribe button. It only takes 2 seconds, and each new subscriber is a massive help for the channel. While stagnant and declining real wage growth has been a problem in the UK for the last 15 years, growing income inequality in the country has been an issue for more than twice as long. Having surged during the 1980s and remained consistently high ever since, income inequality in the UK is higher than any other large European country. The Gini coefficient, a method of calculating and comparing income inequality across countries, shows that the UK ranks second to only the US in terms of its income inequality. The last decade and a half have been extremely tough for the average household in the UK. Families that were already in a precarious situation before the pandemic have found their standard of living continuing to decline even after the economy fully opened up again. Real GDP per capita growth, a metric often used to measure living standards, has been negative for 7 consecutive quarters, which is the longest run of negative returns since records began in 1955. Not only this, but the size of the contraction has increased in each of the last quarters. And according to some projections, UK standards of living might not recover until the late 2020s. The average UK household is now 20% poorer than their German counterparts and 9% poorer than their peers in France. While economic struggles affect all aspects of life, one area has become particularly problematic for UK citizens: the housing market. The root of this crisis lies in a persistent and significant imbalance between housing supply and demand. Over the past 3 decades, the UK has consistently failed to meet the housing needs of its growing population. From 1991 to 2021, 3 million fewer properties were built compared to the previous 30 years, despite the population increasing by more than 9 million. This dramatic shortfall has created a housing market where demand far outstrips supply, driving prices to unprecedented levels. The impact of this supply-demand mismatch is starkly evident in house prices. In London, the average house price has soared to over £500,000, placing home ownership out of reach for many young professionals. This trend is not limited to the capital. Across the UK, housing costs have risen dramatically relative to wages. As a result, the average age of first-time homebuyers has climbed to around 33, reflecting the increasing difficulty young people face in stepping onto the property ladder. For those unable to buy, the rental market offers little reprieve. Rising rental costs have trapped individuals in a cycle where those who cannot afford to buy a home are forced to rent, facing ever-increasing rates. This situation creates a self-perpetuating cycle. High rental costs make it difficult to save for a deposit, further delaying or preventing the transition to home ownership. The severity of the housing crisis is further illustrated by the alarming rise in homelessness. The number of English households living in temporary accommodation has more than doubled between 2010 and 2023. In London, the situation is particularly dire, with more than 1 in 50 people estimated to be homeless, a shocking figure that has risen by over 50% in the last decade. The social housing sector, which once provided a safety net for those unable to afford market rate housing, has also been significantly diminished. The UK now has 1.4 million fewer households in social housing than in 1980, exacerbating the affordability crisis and increasing reliance on the private rental sector. This housing crisis has created a stark divide in British society. The disparity in housing affordability has led to a situation where wealth and housing opportunities are increasingly determined by parental wealth or high incomes. Young adults are increasingly living with their parents due to the inability to afford housing, a trend that reflects the broader economic stagnation and declining living standards. The housing crisis is not the only challenge eroding the UK's stability. The NHS, once a source of national pride, now faces a critical workforce shortage that threatens its ability to provide adequate care. With over 110,000 job vacancies across NHS trusts, the system is under unprecedented strain. This shortage has led to increased pressure on existing staff, contributing to a cycle of burnout and further attrition. The impact on patient care is significant, with delays in cancer diagnosis and treatment putting patient safety at risk. 3 in 10 NHS workers are considering leaving their jobs due to poor pay and working conditions. Not only this, but 1 in 3 UK medical students plan to leave the NHS within 2 years of graduating, either to practice abroad or to abandon medicine altogether. The exodus of healthcare professionals from the UK is not merely a hypothetical scenario. In 2022, 6,950 doctors applied for certificates to work abroad, with many heading to countries like Australia, where they can earn higher salaries and enjoy better working conditions. This outflow of skilled medical professionals represents a significant loss of expertise and investment in training, further straining the already burdened NHS. The impact of these staffing issues is reflected in the NHS's ability to meet critical healthcare targets. Only 64.1% of patients start cancer treatment within the recommended 62 days, a clear indication of the systemic issues plaguing the service. Public satisfaction with the NHS has also plummeted, with only 27% of staff feeling there are enough personnel to do their jobs effectively. The NHS crisis is symptomatic of a broader issue in UK public services and infrastructure management. As the UK grapples with these systemic problems, the appeal of opportunities abroad grows stronger for skilled professionals across various sectors. While public services strain under mounting pressure, the UK's decision to leave the European Union has had far-reaching consequences, compounding existing challenges and potentially fueling the exodus of skilled professionals. The economic impact of Brexit has been significant and multifaceted. Projections indicate that the UK economy will be approximately 4% smaller due to Brexit, translating to an annual loss of around £100 billion. This contraction is not merely a theoretical figure. It represents tangible losses in economic opportunities and living standards for British citizens. One of the most visible effects of Brexit has been the decline in trade openness. Since the 2016 referendum, the UK has experienced a 2.2% decrease in trade as a share of GDP compared to pre-pandemic levels. This reduction in trade activity has led to the UK losing market share in goods trade across both EU and non-EU markets. The consequences of this trade disruption are expected to be felt in workers' pockets, with real wages projected to drop by £470 annually by the end of the decade. Perhaps most concerning for the future of the UK economy is the potential brain drain of scientific talent. Reports indicate that the UK is struggling to attract and retain top researchers due to delays in joining the EU's Horizon Europe research funding programme. This loss of scientific expertise could have long-lasting effects on the UK's innovation capacity and global competitiveness. The impact of Brexit on the workforce is particularly striking among young people. The number of young individuals considering leaving the UK has more than doubled since Brexit, rising from 13% in 2015 to 29% in recent years. This trend suggests that Brexit has significantly altered the perception of future opportunities within the UK, especially among the younger generation. Furthermore, the UK has experienced a sharp decline in the number of EU nationals willing to work in the country post-Brexit. This reduction in the available workforce has affected various sectors, including hospitality and healthcare, exacerbating existing labour shortages and impacting service quality. The UK's current trajectory presents a sobering outlook for its future, and its economy is likely to remain a problem for the next few years at least. If you want to learn more about the current state of one of the UK's major trading partners, head on over to this video where I show you just that. Thanks for watching and see you next time.